everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I am creating 4 cards with the March Flavor of the Month card kit by Scrappin' for Less. I'm going to be following the sketches that they provide on their website for inspiration. So jumping into card number 1, I'm using collection number 4 and I am going to be following sketch number 1. I've stamped out my images, which is the Ice Cream Chicks by Stamping Bella. I've stamped it onto a piece of Nina Solar white 80-pound cardstock because this is what I learned to color on. So this is the easiest cardstock for me to work on. I've also die cut the panel with a 3.5-inch stitch square die by Fawn. I'm using my Copic colors to color in the images, and I'm listing the combinations that I'm using in this left-hand screen. I'm also going to list those on my blog if you're interested to check that out. So for the coloring, the inspiration I'm taking from is the insert on the package. I'm following the same color combinations. I'm just adding that really nice chocolate brown on that bottom ice cream. And for the top one, I'm going to attempt to color it white. However, my marker was pretty juicy and a glob of the darker color leaked onto my card, and so I just kind of have to blend it out as best I can. And so it's probably like a different flavor now. Anyhow, I'm using a top folding A2 standard size card base, and I've cut the gumdrop green panel cardstock down to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and then I've layered that pretty yellow sunburst paper that is cut down just a slightly smaller, and then I'm taking that sprinkle paper that was part of the collection, and the vertical strip is about 1.5 inches, and the horizontal strip that I've added the fishtail banner to is about 1/2 inch. I've adhered both of those down, and then I thought my panel looked a little bit empty, so I decided to add a soft glow around the image, and I'm using some of the yellow greens to do that, to sort of tie in the green of the paper and give it a little bit more, to look more popped out. And then at the end I will take a white gel pen and add white dots around it just to minimize any mistakes that I made in blending. So for my sentiment, I'm using one of the strips that is on top of the pattern paper. I'm cutting it down to read Happy Birthday, and I've popped it up with some foam tape, and then I'm just going to adhere that down. And here's a close-up of the card one that I made. For card number 2, I'm using collection number 1, and I'm going to follow sketch number 2. I'm using that pretty confetti pattern paper, and I'm going to die cut the 3 tags using a tag from Sizzix Framelits. I've stamped out my image onto a piece of Nina Solar white cardstock, and I did a little bit of masking to make the spoon look like it's inside the ice cream. However, I managed to mess it up, and we're just going to cover that up at the end by creatively coloring it. So my ice cream is, what would that be? Like a cracked pistachio or mint? I don't know. I don't eat ice cream. I don't like it, but my daughter loves all of the green flavors. So this was a little bit inspired by her love of green ice cream. And the spoon, I'm gonna color it up pretty dark so that I can cover up that little mistake there, which I color it off camera. So all my pieces are die cut now, and I'm ready to assemble the card. I take a side folding A2 size card base and I attach that banner. The banner is cut from that same green cardstock, and it's a Fawn Lacy border die, I think that's what it's called. And then working on those tags gave me trouble. I took a piece of the brown twine to sort of give it a little bit of something extra, but I had such trouble trying to hold the tags without wobbling too much because they're not very sturdy, and trying to wrap the twine around, it was just a disaster. But I persevered and I've got that twine around there. And so I've added a lot of tape to sort of make it workable. And then I add quite a bit of glue dots to secure the twine. And then I'm going to add a lot of foam tape so that it gives it a little bit more sturdybility, so that I can put it on top of my card base without it being too crazy over the place. And a little more foam tape. Then I will take my card base, which I've added all of my papers to, and I didn't realize my battery had died, and so I die cut the sentiment from a dark brown cardstock using the Your Sweet die from Fawn, and I've attached that to the top. And so I decide I'm gonna put some eyelets on those tags to kind of finish them off and make them look nicer. Unfortunately, I've never used my Crocodile eyelet setter, so it took a couple of tries, but I got it. And I end up putting on all three of the tags a nice green eyelet. I think I got it now. Anyhow, I think those actually finish off the card, the tags, really nice and make it look a little more polished. The tags are on foam tape, and I'm just gonna center those and adhere them to the layers that I've already got adhered down. And then I take the little ice cream that we colored earlier, and I use some foam tape to pop that up and put it in the left hand corner. And that will finish off that card. And here's a close-up of the finished card. I really like the way this one turned out. I struggled with this one to get it to look nice. But anyhow, for card number 3, I'm using collection number 2 and sketch number 3. And in the interest of a little bit of time, I've die cut all of the components to my card out off screen. And I'm just going to start layering the pink lemonade paper that came in the kit to my card base, and then that really pretty green striped paper is from that same collection, and I've cut that down slightly smaller than the card base. The pink strip, I'm going to pop that up on some foam tape. It's actually fun foam. I have about 1,000 pounds of it, and so I'm trying to use it up. And then I've die cut 3 circles from some black cardstock. And I realized the sketch shows 4, but 4 just wouldn't fit, and I'm slightly OCD, and so it sort of has to be in odd number. I seem to do everything in odd numbers. So for the main element of this card, I wanted to use those buttons, and frankly I only had 3 that were color matched to the card that I'm creating, so that's another reason why there's only 3 circles. The buttons, I've just snipped the backs of them with my wire cutters, and I'm able to adhere those flat. For the sentiment for this card, I am taking the happy birthday from the Flavor of the Month 1-year sentiment stamp set. I've cut it apart so that I can have it lengthwise, and then I've stamped it out with Versamark onto a piece of black cardstock, and then I'm coating that with some white embossing powder, and then I'll go ahead and melt that powder and die cut this sentiment using a die from My Favorite Things. The sentiment I'm going to attach with a little bit of fun foam and attach it into that bottom right hand underneath these circles. I'm using some really strong tape adhesive to put the fun foam on. And then I realized I forgot to put a little bit extra glue on there, and so I popped that back out and added more glue and put it back. And then I use glue dots to adhere those buttons in the center of that scalloped circle. And they stick pretty well. I don't think they're going to fall off. I don't have the feeling that they are loose at all. And that will complete. Oh no, I add some enamel dots as the final embellishment onto this card. Yes, I do add them. It is enamel dots from Eco Park, and the collection that I'm using is petticoats and pinstripes. And now that will complete card number 3. And here is a close-up of the completed card. The last card is from collection number 3, and I'm going to be using sketch number 4. I'm using the adorable Ice Cream Marcy by La La Land Crafts, and I'm stamping her off because it had a little bit of that residue, and I just wanted to make sure I got a nice impression. So again, I'm using my Copic markers to color her in, so I've stamped the image onto Nina Solar White 80-pound cardstock, and I'm jumping right into the coloring. Again, all of the colors that I use will be listed in the screen and also on my blog post if you care to check that out. The skin tone that I use, and this is just happens to be my go-to, I use several colors just to get some depth, and so I just every marker, subsequent marker that I use just blends a little bit past than the last one. The hair is something I still struggle with. I've tried to color light to dark, dark to light. I'm not 100% happy with the results I'm getting, so I think I just need a little more practice, and we'll see how it goes. For this particular image, I started dark to light, and then I feel like I lose a little bit of the texture, and so generally I do go back a second time following the same pattern, the dark to light, to add that back in. So the shirt, let's see, I colored it, I cut out the shirt in the editing process. I cut it out completely because once I colored it, it looked very radioactive pink. So I just couldn't do that, and I wasn't about to start over again. So we're going to just color the shirt again and add it on top of that. I gave her some jeans and the matching headband, and then colored up her little shoes. And then I'm going to color the ice cream, and the soft pink that I use for the ice cream is much better choice for her shirt as well, and that's what I will fix in a minute. I go ahead and I die cut the panel using a stitched oval die from My Favorite Things, and then I'm going to stamp the little girl again, and I just really need her shirt, so I don't care that there's not enough room to stamp out the entire image. And I'm gonna use the same color combination I used for the ice cream, which is R85 and R81. And I don't have the color in between, so I don't feel like I'm getting a good blend, but no fear, we're just gonna use a white gel pen and put some polka dots on that shirt. I fussy cut the image or the shirt, and then I adhere it to the top of that awful radioactive one. And I'm going to be using some multimedia matte adhesive for that, just in case if any of it leaks out, it'll dry matte and it just won't show up. And there's where I add the polka dots. For the sentiment, I'm going to be using the Flavor of the Month stamp set again, and this time I'm going to use Celebrate. I'm going to take a piece of black cardstock and I will stamp that with Versamark ink and then heat emboss that using some white embossing powder. I really like how the white embossing powder looks on the black cardstock. A lot of my cards have that feature. It's something I really like. I'll trim that down and I'm ready to put my card together. I've cut the pink lemonade cardstock using My Favorite Things stitched rectangle scallop edge frame die, and I've also added some foam squares onto the frame, and then I've inset the panel that came out of the frame, and then I've added the pattern paper inside of that. I'll take the focal point image and I'm going to add some fun foam to the back of that. I'm using some of that pretty strong adhesive. And then I will, I guess I trim up the sentiment now. I'll add the sentiment again with a little bit of fun foam, fishtail the end, and add it in the bottom right hand corner. And that will complete card number 4. Thank you guys so much for watching, and if you have enjoyed this video and found it useful, please let me know in the comments below, leave me a thumbs up, and consider subscribing. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you another time.